What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here to discuss some NC State men's basketball this morning. Obviously, a frustrating loss for NC State on Saturday. Kansas, a team that, like certain teams, if you have a breakthrough moment, they just make more noise than others. And winning at home against Kansas would have been one of those types of moments for NC State. Ultimately, not able to come away with the win. Clearly Melvin Council Jr., career game, legacy game for him, whatever you want to call it. Just a massive performance. NC State not able to stop him in that game. But, wanted to kind of detail why an overtime loss by 1 point shouldn't be the make or break moment for NC State, and continue to keep putting so much emphasis on these Power 4 high major games, however you want to detail it, as opposed to looking at the overall resume for NC State right now. I mean, the biggest thing for NC State going into this game was the fact that, yes, I know, like I said, the noise of making or of winning a game against Kansas at home, especially in that type of environment, would have been massive. But you can't just take away what NC State has already done to this point in the season. Yes, 4 losses, all to high major opponents. Seton Hall, now a team inside the top 50. All these teams that they've lost to so far have been quad 1 opponents. And I know what people are going to say. You're now at this point, you're chasing quad 1 wins. You're trying to get back to that point. Well, they do actually have a quad 1 win. I know a lot of people kind of forget about the fact that Boise State was actually a pretty good win, currently ranked, I believe, 39th in the net last time I looked. So still a comfortable quad 1 win for NC State right now in a neutral site. Winning that in the Maui Invitational, yes. Winning against Seton Hall, winning against Texas even would have been good wins for NC State, but you drop those, you drop it on the road to Auburn, but you're seeing so much more effort from this team. You're seeing so much more defensive effort, offensive effort, both on both ends of the court right now. Yes, Melvin Council Jr. had a career game. We talked about it. If you want to go back and listen to Saturday's podcast immediately after the game, both Charlie and I talked about, the fact that NC State's defensive intensity should have gotten better on him. You should have closed out better on him after, I believe they said, the third three-pointer that he made. They were like, all right, we've got to figure this out. This is a guy that's never made more than 4 3-pointers in his entire career. And he goes out and makes 9 in that game. That was nearly double what he's had on the season, 5 of 27 before that game. So, yes, all of those things taken into account. But, at some point, the analytics are not telling you the story of what's happening in the game. And that's where NC State should have and did change it a little bit. But, at the same time, Darren Peterson comes out there in the second half before the injury and balls out. He had nearly double-digit points just in the second half alone. So you have to start, giving him more attention. You also have to start giving Flory Badunga more attention as he's out there and not there for 17 minutes of the first half. It's a completely different team that you're facing. The reason why they lost that game still to me is not because of just Melvin Council having a massive game or NC State not being able to stop him on that end of the floor, or not being able to get shots late in the at the very end, the final 2 possessions to be able to win that game. It was more so about the offense in the first half, not being able to take advantage of Flory Badunga not being out there and being able to drive inside, finish inside, and finish with more than 30 points. There's no way that if you told Will Wade before the game Flory Badunga was going to miss 17 minutes, one of their best defensive players down low was going to miss 17 minutes of that first half, and you were going to go 2 of 18 from 3-point range in the first half, like those things just don't check out to me. That was part of the issue that I had with the offensive side of the basketball is you have to realize, hey guys, like they don't have their best big man down low. You guys have to drive more. You have to finish more around the rim, make those adjustments and have more of an inside game. The fact that I know people have, I even talked about it beforehand. Obviously, Darian Williams has to be a bigger factor for this team. He was a huge factor down the stretch. I'd still kind of think back to like the second half. If he's not out with an injury for a little over 7 minutes in that second half, does he get jump started more quickly? Does he kind of get his offensive game going a little bit earlier, not when his back is just pressed against the wall late in the game? So I do think if he gets going a little bit earlier in this game, NC State wins it in the second half as opposed to having to even go to overtime. So all of those details are why I think NC State, the sky is not falling right now for this team. Yes, the Kansas game is what it is, but you're 1-3 right now in quad one games. The team that you played against, Boise State, the one win that you have, they're 2-2 in quad one games. One of those quad one losses to NC State because they are a good team right now. Like, I know that a lot of people kind of want to crap on, the Red Reckoning's off to a terrible start. Sure, this is not what Will Wade expected coming in. I'm sure he probably thought we're going to win at least one of, if not multiple games right now against these high major opponents that you had early on in the season. You'd love to have the Kansas win. You would have loved to at least made the championship game in the Maui Invitational as opposed to playing a good Texas team in the, fifth place game in that Maui Invitational. So all of these things taken into account, sure, you'd love to have had a better start, but nothing is off the table right now for this team. Like, if you watch this team right now, I know that they've lost some close games, but there is still every bit of a roster that can go out and win, big in the ACC. You have UNC and Duke both coming to Lenovo Center. Yes, those are both very good teams. Like, I'm not taking a shot at UNC by any stretch. They played much better than I think people expected them early on in the season. Duke has been every bit the juggernaut that you expected. They have to go on the road to Louisville. All those games are going to be very difficult, but this team still has the makings of being a team that can compete to be in the top half of the ACC, very much be a team that can compete to have a double bye once you get to the ACC tournament. So all of those are put together for NC State. And as Jonathan pointed out here, yes, the schedule matches up very nicely for NC State. You have a chance to get off to a good start early on, build some confidence in the ACC. Virginia is going to be tough on the road, but all of these things let me make sure. Hold on one second. I believe that game is on the road, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, the Virginia game is actually at home. So you have two straight at home. Then you go on the road to Boston College. Conti Forum is still kind of a difficult one, even though it's a bad Boston College team, but it's still kind of a sleepy environment. Florida State is not as good as most people expected. So you have a chance to, these next 6 games, really get yourself back in check, make some changes, get back to what you wanted to do before the season, get guys like Darian Williams more consistently scoring, get guys like Paul McNeil back in the fold here. He's really struggled these last few games. I'm not taking that out of the equation here, but you've still got the inner makings of a very, very good team here, and a team that's playing with more energy on the defensive end, a team that has all the offensive firepower if they can put it together and not take bad shots, get back in transition defense. You did all the things right against Kansas that you really needed to. They just didn't hit the shots that they needed to, and that led to a lot of transition opportunities for Kansas, which NC State played good transition defense in that game and limited what they were able to do, but you can't do that against really good teams, and NC State was able to kind of get away with it early on, and then, the second half, Kansas played more efficiently offensively. NC State played more efficiently offensively, but it's like you've got to be able to put those things together. I'm looking at the rest of the schedule. Texas Southern coming up on Wednesday. Obviously, that's going to be the Heritage game, the Reynolds game. Ole Miss. I saw somebody post over the weekend. Not going to take a shot at anybody in particular, but a lot of people kind of saying, oh man, the Ole Miss game is a must-win game. Ole Miss game is a must-win game. I think Ole Miss is a can't-lose game. Like, it's one of those types of situations where it actually could end up looking really bad by the end of the season. This is an Ole Miss team that, despite it being a neutral court situation, has lost 4 of the last 5 games. Has not really looked competitive here recently. Has looked really bad offensively. So for NC State, you've got to win that game. And then Wake Forest at home, Virginia at home, Boston College on the road, Florida State on the road, Georgia Tech at home. Like, all of those games are very, very winnable games for NC State. I know Wake Forest has really been strong in certain games, even pushing Michigan, who we all kind of see now as a juggernaut, into overtime, similar to kind of what NC State was able to do against Kansas. But at the same time, like, you can't take any of these for granted. And I think you have a chance over these next few games to start figuring out, all right, who's really cutting down this rotation or really figuring out where this team is. But looking at the actual metrics, NC State, I know people scoffed at the fact that NC State has played the toughest non-conference schedule in the ACC. I mean, according to KenPom, they actually have. Like, they sit inside the top 50. They're the only team in the top 50 in terms of non-conference because, no, they haven't played, 4 top 25 opponents like Duke has, but they scheduled across the entire schedule teams like VCU, teams like Boise State, teams like Liberty that we're kind of overlooking in all this, all top 100 teams, and that kind of continues to put you in a better position when it comes to non-conference overall. Again, you've got to start winning some more of these games. You've got to start kind of putting yourself into a more comfortable position to get the NCAA tournament. But this team is still an NCAA tournament team right now. It's just about what you do the rest of the way. You can't lose some of these games against worse opponents, and you also have to be able to kind of find ways to win some games against better opponents and be able to pull out some wins at home, especially late in the season. We talked about it. UNC, Duke, both coming to Lenovo Center late in the season. You got to travel to SMU. They got to travel to Wake Forest late in the season. And then you have teams like Notre Dame and Virginia on the road late in the season too. So we'll see what NC State's able to do. Again, there's no guarantee that NC State is going to be able to get to the NCAA tournament, but I still, there's too much here for NC State to be able to build upon. There's a very good coach at the top of this, and Will Wade, that, yes, to this point, he would admit hasn't necessarily backed up what he said, but there's still over 20 games left in the season. There's still a lot left on the table for NC State to be able to put this thing together. And I think there's the time to kind of take a step back from the ledge and see what this team's able to build over the next few weeks before you really get into the meat of the ACC schedule. So thank you to everybody for listening. We will talk to you guys again soon.